Welcome to episode 67 of the Creative Train podcast. I Googled my gig, and here's what I learned. I've been at this creative coach thing for about 2 years now. Since that one fateful afternoon during a mind-numbing 90-minute commute, I thought about how many people I've met over the years who've told me I should offer coaching sessions for musicians and artists, not just lessons. Some people need subtle cues, some people need more obvious cues for their inspiration. But I put it off for years, thinking that it was like a lofty idea at best. But then I started doing it. You know, more online stuff, YouTube, podcast, website, all that stuff. And you know what? It's starting to really take off for me. It wasn't quick, but it's happening. So hang on for a very brief 2-year synopsis of my time as creativetrain.ca. All aboard. If you're a regular listener, you might notice, or you might not notice, that I sound a little bit different today. I had the good fortune of borrowing a very, very expensive, wonderful microphone for a week or so to do some vocal recording for somebody. And so I thought I would, deploy it on the podcast as well. So I've talked about these tools and stuff before where people get obsessed with buying new tools thinking it's going to make their art that much better. I've addressed this on two other episodes. One is called I Have GAS, G-A-S, Gear Acquisition Syndrome, and another one called Your Tools Are an Extension of Your Creativity. And in those two episodes, I explored the artist or the creator's yearning for new gear. When they see it come out, they fall victim to the ad baits online. And they seem convinced that the more gear they acquire, the better their art will be, when in fact it's absolutely not true. You can get new tools. They're fun. You can do new things with new tools, but the new tools won't make you a better artist. They'll just give you more things you can do with them. So I've never put myself off as a guru of any sort. I don't have any YouTube algorithm hacks. And as I've said before many times, there is no secret to creativity. Check out the episode called The Myth of the Secret and the Reality of Creative Work for a deeper dive on that topic. But what you have right now in your bag of tools, your well of inspiration though, is something that nobody else anywhere has. You are you. And that's a very trite and obvious thing to say, but you cannot compete against anyone trying to out-be you. Nobody can do that. There's only one you, and well, you're it, sunshine. Remember when the internet was a new thing? And a few years in, people started Googling their name to see what the internet knew about them? You did it. Don't be bashful. I did it too. It wasn't an act of narcissism. It was a newfound curiosity met with, is anyone talking about me on MySpace? It's okay. We'll move on now. At the moment right now, we're all likely less secure knowing how much more information about us is online for public viewing, just a few searches. Despite the fact that there are likely hundreds, if not thousands of folks with your same name, with similar gigs or careers as you, and you know nothing about them, it's all out there. And we all agreed to releasing our information in that dreaded end-user license agreement we all clicked rapidly through on our favorite social media platform sign-up page. So with all these other people, you're not related or associated in any way, but you could be mistaken for them in a casual web search. Dun, dun, dun. But in all this time, these last couple years, I've never searched for what other creativity coaches do or who they are, where they are. I wanted this to be just like a growth of something that I do. I don't want to be accused of stealing anybody's rates or modes or methodologies. So when the first inspiration hit me to do this, I had just arrived from that 90-minute commute I mentioned in the intro, and I scurried up to my studio, And I wrote out by hand about 5 pages of hastily compiled notes on things folks have said to me over the years about my teaching style. They all go in your head. They're pleasant memories to have, but I don't dwell on them. So they're things that students have said, parents of students have said, and even just folks who know what I do mention to me that they heard in conversation, people talking about me. I wanted to get those things down and focus on them when I had proper time to write about them. But tonight, in a bout of nostalgic nonsense, I looked up creativity coaches online, and I was pretty surprised with what I found. The first thing was that I didn't show up on any of the searches. None. I did 3. Not only did the mighty algorithm not find me, but pointed me in a dozen different non-related directions. Secondly, was the top hits of blogs and podcasts and YouTube videos. They were often more than 10 years old, and these channels had been abandoned for a decade with no new stuff, but they were some of the top hits. What I did find, though, as I searched further, was a bunch of folks that I checked out based on the sort of vibe that their preview link showed or their images showed. I watched some of their videos, I read their blogs, and I genuinely, for the first time in a long time, felt like I had found my people. I reached out to a few to ask if they'd like to be a guest here. Haven't heard back from them, but, fingers crossed, like minds will intersect for your listening pleasure. The search bots have me defined. The best thing I could find, closest thing I could find, was an audio engineering coach. I've never advertised that. I can do that, but that was never in any of my definitions, not with those words at all. My focus has always been on the individual, seeking or yearning, looking to unlock your creative potential, even if you've never played an instrument, held a paintbrush, or maybe you've already failed miserably at all of those things. Whatever it is that you're looking to improve upon, there are a few things about mindset and practice and habits that you have to keep in mind on your creative journey, and these apply to any form of creativity. And the first is something that I used in the opening, and that is, you are you, do that. Nobody can outdo you being you. You don't need to replicate things around you and call it your own creation. You can do that stuff in your own studio for private time, practice, riffing on things. But what comes next is a revelation of you as an artist, the person who has learned, assimilated, repeated, learned more, assimilated more, and repeated it over and over again, to eventually arrive at the place of asking yourself, okay, what's next? Well, I can tell you that it's not off in search of the next artist or trend to replicate or imitate. It's a much higher aspiration. It's how to create like you. And what does that mean? Funny you should ask. Let's start by going back to your first creative inspirations. Was it a show or listening to a record or seeing something on TV, or was it something as intangible and fuzzy as a dream? For me, it was 100% listening to music. From some jazz albums that my folks had to my first acquisition of a rock and roll album, which was Kiss Dynasty. I listened over and over to those things and found the tones of things seeping into my mind. I had no concept at the time of wanting to find ways to replicate those tones, but there was something about them that made me certain, absolutely certain, that I too would make those sounds someday. And that led me to a college degree and eventually career in audio engineering. At first, my goal was to do this in some studio, somewhere, working for someone, but I soon came to find that even an internship at a pro studio was almost impossible without experience. So I turned my skills to creating my own sounds. Trying to make a business out of this, I turned my focus and my finances to buying and assembling my first digital mobile recording rig. And I did live recordings for bands, big and small, solo acts, some larger orchestras, and even some environmental recordings for a few community groups. It was really, really cool. So at that point, I was thinking that my new creative destiny was to record others again. But prior to that, I worked as a session musician, which is, I would pick up recording and performing gigs where there was a need for someone who could learn the parts quick and deliver an on-point performance within a few minutes. It's fun, but it's really stressful at times. But life in rural Ontario, Canada, before the internet proved that to be not a very likely career choice. So I continued doing these small recording gigs. And once the gear was paid off, I turned my focus inward and began making my own recordings. Now the onus was on me to produce things, not just help other people produce their things. So fast forward 20 years now since my first album, I have over 30 years of full-time music teaching under my belt, more than 50,000 private students over that time, 3 full albums, a dozen or so singles, a bunch of studio credits from working on both sides of the glass. And I wanted to turn my focus now outward again to you, the artist. I've learned a lot in these 30 years. So my Googling of creative coaches and their roles was a bit of a mix of humility, inspiration, fear, and delight. All of those come from, as I said, finding my people, but also finding what people think I might be if they do a similar search. No one person has all the answers. It's not. It's been well established in the creative psyche that there is no actual secret. People will keep looking for it and be tempted to bite at something that looks yummy to satisfy their creative urges. But no, there's no secret. You got to work at it. There's no algorithm hack, like I mentioned before, to getting more views. And there is most assuredly not going to be real support from those you value most in your life, friends and family. We'll keep this part short. This is going to be another episode altogether. But the simple, basic, and undeniable truth that every single artist and creative person has found, your most loyal and interested followers, consumers, and lovers of your art will come organically. In other words, not by your friends and family letting others know that you've been up to doing some awesome stuff lately. That's not to say that you should think of yourself as an island. But as far as being an artist, a teacher for hire, performer, whatever, allow your audience to grow. Forcing it out there to your friends and family on social media and whatever will only blind your, quote, closest people to your efforts. I don't know why it is. I read some really interesting blogs on this when I was looking up for, what a creative coach does. And it's an episode that I was hesitant to start writing, but I've started writing it now because that somebody out there is going to think that I'm, pointing my finger at them or wagging my finger at them and for not sharing, what I do. And that's fine. I don't expect friends and family to share what I do. I don't. Thinking of the podcast now, I was thrilled when it's crossed the 500 download mark. Now it's crossed the 1,000th download mark, and it's into 1,100 now, just over the last couple of weeks. And it seems to be growing in Asian countries. I think that's really cool. I never would have expected that. I don't know anybody who lives over there. Maybe I do. I don't know. So it's finding its way around organically. And I don't think it's bots. It could be. I don't want to think that it's bots, but I don't think that it is because they're sporadic, small amounts of downloads. It's not like 50,000 that you would expect, if a bot farm were to get a hold of it. It's encouraging for me to see these things grow organically without having to advertise. And it's taken 2 years. 2 years of daily work for me. Right now, if I check my phone, it's 11:30 a.m. on a Thursday morning. I guess it's still morning. And what I allow myself is from 10 a.m. to noon every day, if I can. Some days things come up, but generally from 10 a.m. till noon. Sometimes I can push it till 1 o'clock. I'm in my studio, my office, whatever you want to call it, where I'm recording this right now, either writing or recording for myself, or editing or recording, whatever, for somebody else. So if you stick to it, it will happen. The degree that it will happen, I can't tell you. Nobody knows that. But I think the biggest thing is consistency. And since, like I said in the opening, it's been 2 years since I started doing all of this stuff, like I consider it a job now, even though I'm not getting paid for it. Maybe this is that long-awaited internship. But if you put your stuff out there, put it on YouTube, social media, whatever, you'll make the most unexpected connections at times. And sometimes it's just when you think the whole thing is going to be a big bust. And in those wonderful moments, you'll find a genuine resiliency and buoyancy that does more for your confidence than 100 social media posts in a week in your local network that will only get you maybe 1 or 2 likes. No shares, heavens. So without trying to sound like a big downer, my big takeaway from Googling my gig, that I am indeed one fish in a very large but diluted pond. But although I am one fish, I'm a unique fish, and nobody else can swim like me. There's your pep talk. Now go get to work. Something that would be really cool to do in having listened to this episode, if you made it to the end, take your creative goals, whatever your long-term creative goals, whatever your methodologies are. Look online and see what other people are doing, if you haven't. I know it's not always very encouraging to do that, because you'll see people that you think are much better than you. Doesn't matter. You do you, right? But if you take a chance to reach out and see what others are doing, it can help you feel more confident as well. When I saw all those sites that had gone dark after 10 years ago, I'm like, yeah, they quit. I didn't quit. I'm going to keep on going. We're up at episode 67 now. Who knows? Maybe in 1,000 more episodes, I'll have this thing sorted out.